Hi, it's Lee. Have you ever wanted to make your own paper? So I decided to have a go, and this is about my third or fourth lot, so I thought I'd take you along for the ride. Hi everyone, it's Lee here. I'm going to show you how I made my handmade paper. Yeah, I'm only a newbie at this, so I'm probably doing things wrong, but my paper turned out okay, so I can't be doing too much wrong. So you can make it nice and thin. I don't know if you can see my hand through that. I can, but I'm not sure if it's showing up on the camera. So I've got different thicknesses, and I'll explain later on how that is achieved. Different colours, I should say. And this brown stuff here was made from this packaging out of an appliance box. And as you can see, I have some round ones, so I'll show you how I made the round stuff. But the first thing that needs to be done is you need to prepare some paper. So I had this old book here that had been used as a journal, and it's got a really nice yellowish creamy sort of colour to it. So I thought that would make nice paper, and I'll keep the cover and make it into some sort of junk journal. So I shredded it all up, and it has been written on. It's got biro. It's been written on with biro. So I've got a whole container full of shredded paper here. So that was the entire book. For the purpose of this video, I won't be using all of this because it's way too much. So I'm just going to put a couple of handfuls. I think that might be enough. I'll put the rest away to use for another project, and then I'm going to cover it in water and just let it sit for a while. So while that's sitting, I'll show you the other things that you'll need to do this. Like, you don't have to have a shredder to make this. You can simply tear your paper up, but I've got a shredder, so why not use it? I mean, it's off to a good start, isn't it, when it's that fine to begin with. Okay, so I'm just going to add some water to that, and then I'll show you what else you need to be able to make the paper. Okay, so I'm filming this on my phone, so I hope it's not too wobbly. I've got my paper in this pink dish, and that's soaking, so that'll sit there for a couple of hours. When it's soft, I'm going to process it through this retired food blender to get it to the consistency that I want. So once the paper is to the consistency, or the pulp is to the consistency I want, I'll use this deckle and mould and deckle. So that's the mould and that's the deckle. And that's been made out of just a little cheap, I think it was an 8x6 canvas, stretched canvas. I took the canvas off. On that one I just covered it in duct tape, and that's weather strip, just to keep a nice square shape on the paper. And yeah, so this is the mould itself. So that scoops into the water that way with that deckle on top, and the paper forms inside that mesh, which I'll show you a bit later on. So I've also got this round one, which is made from a little embroidery hoop. So that's how I made the round paper, and it doesn't have a deckle, it's just the mould itself. Other things I use is this square of acrylic. So when you tip your papers out of the mould, they go onto what's called a couching cloth. And when I made the paper, I lay it on this acrylic sheet, and then I just put the next one on top of it, and then just stack them so they had somewhere flat to lie before they got put out to dry. So a towel is handy, because what I do with the towel is I spread it out, and then I've got an old cutting mat that I put my couching fabric onto before I tip the paper out of the mould. And you'll see how I do that a bit later on. So I'm just showing you what I use. So you need a sponge or some sort of really absorbent cloth to get the excess water out of your paper. You'll probably need to use a sieve of some sort, and I also find it handy to have a couple of extra containers hanging around. So I'm going to leave my papers soaking in the water. I'm going to take my couching cloths and iron them because they're a bit wrinkly. I didn't put them away properly last time. And then I'll come back and I'll start processing some paper, and I'll explain things in more detail as we go. So I've already processed one lot of the pulp, which is just in here. So here's my paper that's been soaking overnight. I did add a little bit of white paper into it. I just thought maybe the biro on those pages, the writing might make it a little bit grey, and I want to get a fairly white paper this time, white or like a creamy colour. So it's nice and workable at the moment. So what I do is I use just a little container. This is only so I've got an idea of how much I am actually processing, so that dump that into there. Now this is the water that drained off the first lot that I processed, and I'll pour that in. And I need a bit more water. So I'm going to process that. So do it for 12-15 seconds or something like that, and then you can tell when your blender starts to sound like it's struggling a little bit. It's time to check it and maybe add a little bit more water. So it's not too bad, but what I've found is when I think it's ready, it always pays to just give it another blast. I'm going to put just a little bit more water in there. Oh, I usually hold the lid on, I don't worry about locking it in place. You can tell by the way it feels really nice and soft. So that's ready to be drained. I've got these containers I got from the supermarket that are really cheap. I have my sieve. And pour that in. And just let all the water strain out of it. So I'd continue doing the same thing over and over until all my paper is processed. So I'm just going to let that strain for a while. So I've got this tub here, and then I've got this one here, and then I'll have probably about half as much again with the gold gold foil in it. Alright, I'm all set up out on the back veranda, so hopefully there's not too much neighbourhood noise. I've got my mould and deckle and my little round mould. On my piece of my old cutting mat, I've got one piece of couching cloth set up, the rest is over there. So what I like to do is have one ready on the table. My container is filled with water, so the reason it looks milky is because I'm actually recycling the water that I used when I was pulping the paper. And what I'll do is add some of the pulp to the water, and the water to pulp ratio is what determines how thick your paper is going to be. So I'm wanting this paper to be reasonably thick, and I'm going to put a little bit of, or a fair bit of pulp in there. So that's 3 handfuls that I've put in. So it looks more papery than watery at the moment, so I'm just going to put a little bit more in. And then I've got this stuff that's got the gold in it, so there are a few little gold flecks in this because I did recycle the water, so there was some gold stuck to the blender jug. So I'll save that and put that in later. Okay, so what you need to do is, I'm just going to bring the camera over so you can see how this water is looking. So you can see it's quite papery. It looks more like paper than water. I need to stir the water and pulp mixture, trying to get the water and the paper pulp suspended in the water. So I've got my deckle and my mould, put them together, and then you go into the water and bring it out. So it's, let the water drain off. Surprising how much you can move this around without it affecting the paper. As you can see, that's a fairly thick piece of paper there. It's a bit thicker than I was hoping for, but never mind. So I'll just plonk it down, and now I need to get some of that water out of there. So that's where I use my sponge. All the water gets recycled, so everything goes back to be used again. And then when I've finished with a session, I tip it onto the garden. It's a really messy procedure, but it is very easy to clean up afterwards. This piece is going to be quite thick and cardboardy, and will probably take a while to dry too. Okay, so now I need to lift the mould off gently, as if you're opening a door, and then I have a piece of paper sitting there. Okay, so what I like to do is put another piece of the couching fabric on the top, because I want to get a few of those marks from the screen off the paper. Bird going off its head out the back there. There might actually be a bit too much pulp in that water, but we'll see. So that's the first piece of paper. Now it's just a matter of I take them away and I put them over here onto this, and I'm just holding it up to the light, and I can see it's a bit uneven, but I think it should be alright. So that's that piece of acrylic. I just use that as a flat surface for paper to sit on. Now the next one I do, I'll just, when I've finished draining it off, I'll just sit that straight on top. And put down, I hope the bird's not too loud, put down the cloth. I think I'll add just a little touch more water in there. And just agitate the pulp around in the water. Put my deckle on top of my mould. Some people will use a brayer to flatten their papers down. You can do that if you want to. I haven't done it yet. I might give that a try. It's supposed to give you a nice smooth surface. So there's the piece of paper. Just going to get some of that muck off the side there, because that sticks to the couching cloth. Just makes it messy. Something else you've got to clean up. But, the paper, if it does dry, like bits get on the couching cloth, it will actually just wipe off when it's dry. Okay, so I'm just going to put that one down. Use the sponge to get the water out. This is just a kitchen sponge. You can get sponges that have a better absorbency. That'll really get heaps more water out. I'm going to lift the mould off gently. That's better. That's a better thickness, that paper. Just going to pop another cloth over the top, and I will go and get my brayer and see what difference it makes. So I'm just going to use the brayer. I think that will get a bit more water out of it too. You can see it rushing out. I think it has affected the shape of the paper though. You can see it's a bit wonky on the end there. Okay, and now it's stuck to the top cloth. So there's that one, and I can actually see there's a few speckles of gold in that one. That goes over in the pile to dry. Not to dry, just to, it's just a place to put it while it's before I get the little dryer out and hang them on it. Okay, so let's make another one. Going to put a little bit of the gold in there. And this is really important to add, like stir the water up each time you do it. So we're going in and out. The longer you leave the mould in the water, the more pulp is going to end up on it. So by you just, you know, like skimming through the water, unless you want a really thick paper, you don't need to leave it in there very long at all. That one's picked up a few of the gold bits. It's really nice. Just putting another bit of towel down there, just so it absorbs the water that the brayer rolls off out of the paper. Okay, so, and now if something goes wrong, it's really easy. You just pick your mould up and scrape off the paper back into the water and have another go. So I went around the garden and I just grabbed a couple of bits of lavender and some flowers, so I thought I might put some petals into one of them, or a couple of them. Don't know how they'll go because they're not dried, they're just straight off the plant. I like the size of this because it's a handy size, you know, to use. It's not too big and it's not too small. Okay, so let's just lift off the mould. Put another piece of couching cloth down on top of it and use the brayer to flatten it and squeeze out some more water. I think the secret is not to press too hard with the brayer, just gently do it. And the last time the paper transferred onto this top sheet, so because I didn't press so hard this time, it hasn't done that. Now, I don't know if you can see that, see the gold in there, but there's also some little bits of pink which were fragments of paper left on there from last time. I used that cloth and I made some pink paper. Okay, so this time I want to try putting some flower petals in there, so I think I'll just put them straight into the water. I should have agitated the pulp before I did that, but never mind. Okay, so give it a bit of a stir up. Put the mould and the deckle together. And in we go with that. And most of the petals got left behind. Oops. Might be able to place some in there. So that's what I've got. Take the deckle off. Turn it over. I'm going to sponge. I think it's really important to get the water out from around the edge. If it's really wet there, the paper can sort of not release from the net. So this is just fly screen that I've made this one with. Okay, just going to lift that off. Another cloth over the top and I'll give it a bit of a roll with the brayer. can see where the petals are, they're poking through. Dried flowers would probably be a better option. I have some dried flowers, so I might go and get them. Okay. This time I'm going to try something different. I'm going to mix the pulp around. It's starting to get a little bit thin, so I might just put a small handful in there to bulk it up a bit. Because when you're doing this, you're taking the water, the paper out of the water all the time. Every time you do a piece, in and straight up. I'm going to put some flowers in there. Push them down in there a little bit so I know they're not going to fall off. Put them down and sponge. I'm going to lift it off. Another cloth over the top. Give it a press. Press this one harder, see if I can get it to transfer over onto this top piece of paper, cloth. I'll be able to see the flowers before they dry. No. Because the paper's thinner now, it's not going to do that. Alright, that one can go over on the pile. Okay, so ready to go again. In and out. While it's draining, I'm going to pop a couple of little flowers in here. I did find some dried ones, but not the ones I was looking for. I think I might have thrown them away. So these are dried agapanthus flowers. Pop a couple of them in. I've got some dried rose petals too, which I'll put in another piece. So push that down into the maybe. Yeah, okay, the next time I do this I'm going to put the paper on the couching cloth first and then put the flowers into it. So I'm not sure whether they might fall off. Alright, still on there. Not sure about putting the fresh flowers in there, whether they might make the paper go mouldy. Yeah, that was the main thing. It might look alright for a little while, but I think eventually they'll go a bit manky. I should dry some more flowers, I guess. But I don't have a lot of flowers in the garden. I did actually grow those ones over there, the little daisy looking things. specifically for using in eco dyeing, and I had marigolds as well, so we'll pass their use by date there. Alrighty, let's get that off. It's sticking a bit, so there, if it does stick, it doesn't release from the mould. It's just try taking it off from a different side. You see the crease in the fabric made the creases on the paper, so I actually don't mind that. Okay, just put this one on the pile and you can see the flowers in there. Okay, so with the next one I'm going to put the paper onto the cloth and then add the flowers. So stir it. Remember to do this every time, otherwise all your paper will sit at the bottom of your dish and you won't get any when you do your scoop. In. I want a thick piece this time, so I'm going to burrow around down in there a bit. Got some gold in this one. Looks like a piece of paper in there that didn't get processed. It's got some biro on it, some writing. Okay. So before I tip that over, I'm going to... No, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. How's this going to work? That won't lift up. Okay. There's a flaw in my plan. That's not going to work. I need to get the water out of it. Otherwise I can't get the mould off. So maybe if I don't get as much out as I normally would, we'll see how that goes. I lifted off, and I think that because the paper's a bit thicker, it released quite easily. So let's get some more of these agapanthus flowers. Put the cover on, and this is going to be squashing them into the paper. I guess I could, oh no, that's not coming up. It's tearing. Maybe I could just leave it in between the fabric. I'll go this way maybe. I think it's too wet. Still. I'm going to get some more water out of it. Yeah, it's a rough one, this one. I just had a thought. I wonder what it'd work out like if you just sprinkled some coffee onto it and a few coffee granules onto a plain piece. I'm going to try that. I've got my little drying rack over here. I'm just going to put these on and then get a bit of a head start. I'm going to try one with coffee in it. I've just got a few granules of instant coffee there. See how it goes. Coffee dyed paper always looks nice. Yeah. Let's see what happens. I've got it up the right way this time. Give it a swirl around. There we go. We've got some leaves this time. Oh, my finger, I'll just chuck in there. Now that I went to put this in now, I think. You can see it's starting to spread out. It's going to stain the fabric. That doesn't matter, I guess. Okay, turn it over, put it down. It's a bit different, isn't it? I wouldn't call it a raving success. I'll do a couple of round ones so you can see how they are made. It's the same except I haven't got a deckle on my mould. Just going to stir that up a bit. I think I need to put some more pulp in. It's a bit thin looking. Just going to hold it in the water for a while. So let some of that pulp settle on there. And bring it up slowly. Because there's nothing to stop. Yeah, it's a bit thin looking. I think it needs more pulp. There's nothing to stop the paper from running, the pulp from running off the frame. So it doesn't have a deckle. Try it again. Bring it up slowly. It's got a good coating this time. Didn't get any flowers, but it's got some gold. Flip it over. That's good. So I'm not going to fiddle with it too much. So it's thin though. You can see through it. to look nice and thick. When I made the circles before, the thicker ones were the nicest. I've just moved the drying rack over into the sun. There's a little bit of wind, it's not too bad. So if it was really windy, I wouldn't be able to hang the paper where I've got it. The first time I made it, I actually put it on the clothesline. And this one's going to be chunky. So I'm going to put another cloth over this and give it a brayer. So that's a much thicker piece than the last one I made. It gets a bit more water out. And it's got a couple of petals in there. Alrighty, it's been quite warm here today, so my paper dried really quickly. It's probably only about 2 hours since I hung it on the little line to dry, so this is the fun part, getting it off. The reveal. This one had already started to peel off. And that's nice and thick, and it's got gold in it. This one's got flowers in it. It's got to be gentle. I mean, it's not super fragile, but if you go at it like a bull in a china shop, you're gonna tear your paper. It's such a satisfying feeling taking it off the cloth. So that's the one that's got the flowers in it, and that one hasn't embedded itself properly. It's a bit thin. Still looks okay. I'm not sure what I'll do with that. I'll probably have to put something over it or pull that one out. So this one has got the purple agapanthus flowers in it. It looks like the colour of the stalk or the stem has come through. That looks cute. I like that one. But the flowers haven't embedded into the pulp. I'm not sure why, but where I pulled that one out, it has left a nice imprint. As I said, I've only just started making paper. I haven't. It's the first time I've ever put anything in it. So that's pretty cute. Flowers haven't stayed in there though. So that one's coming out. One's come out, and you can see the little imprint, like it's embossed itself, which is a little bit concerning for me because with the camera off I went ahead and used up the last of the flowers and everything and made some thicker papers with lots of the flowers in them, so they may not be able to be used. But the thing is, like if it can't be used, it can be pulped up again, and it's pretty easy to get the flowers out of it at that point. That's a plain one, so that's turned out really well. It's nice and stiff. This is the one that I put coffee granules on, and it's got lavender leaves and a couple of the petals. Can't really smell the lavender. It's a bit different, might be alright in collage. This is one of the round ones. So because there's no deckle on that round mould, you don't get a nice even edge. Not that you've got one on these. Some of these are pretty rough, I'm not sure why. So that's quite thin, and it's got the gold speckle through it. That's another round one. I thought I had a round one that had some flowers, and it might be this one. I can sort of see something poking through. Yeah, it's got 1 or 2 petals in there. Another round one, and I can see this has got lavender leaves in it. This is fairly thick by the feel of it. Oh, it's the rose petals. No, they haven't turned out very well, and they're not even sticking in there, so they can come off. I need to go back to the drawing board with adding flowers to my papers. There's a couple of lavender leaves that are right in under the paper, so it's left some interesting marks, but yeah, not entirely a success. Not a complete failure though, it's still nice. This one's going to be a good one. I think the best ones are the ones that I didn't put anything into except for the gold. Oh, that's really got some gold in that. That's beautiful, that one. Love that. This will be interesting because it's got heaps of flowers in it. This is the one that I couldn't get couldn't get it off the cloth. Like when I put the second cloth on. Yeah, so those flowers are not staying on there. I think they have nice imprints though when you pull them out. It looks really nice. Some of them are going to stay in there. They're just coming straight out. It's like it's been embossed. Okay, so I'm going to have to watch a couple of other YouTube videos and work out how to do that. Can you see the pattern? It looks actually quite nice, but you can see that edge. I'm not sure how that happened, but yep. Okay, and is this the last one? 2 pieces of fabric here. Oh yeah, okay, this is that other one that I couldn't lift. So I left it in between the 2 sheets of paper, because 2 sheets of fabric, because every time I tried to lift it off, it just started ripping. This looks like it's got a flower petal in it. It's a bit holy down the end. Lavender leaf, flower petals, a little bit of rose petal and gold. Okay, so not entirely. I mean, they're still beautiful. To me, they're still. Oh, on the other side of that, that looks awesome. Yeah, I still love them, and I just need to put them in my makeshift paper press. I'll show you that in a second. That one's really nice and thick and chunky. It's gorgeous. There we go, there's another one of them that's fallen out. I think they're all going to come out. I should just pull them out. I think that's, like, these are fresh. They weren't dried flowers, so maybe that's not the thing to use. Anyway, I gave it a try, and now it's got these interesting impressions on them, like fossils. I'm wondering whether I should pull these ones off. It looks really nice, eh? I love it, the way they're all in the corner, but yeah, I think they're going to end up just falling off anyway, so I'll pull them out. And then I'll have the impression of them in there. So whatever I said about using flowers when you're making paper, just forget it. It looks really awesome. People would look at that and wonder how you did it. And this one, some of them are starting to come off. Let's get them out. Yeah, you can feel them. I think, you know, they're quite moist, the flowers. Maybe I needed to add something into the water to keep them in there. I don't know. I had some handmade paper sent to me that had flower petals in it, and it wasn't thick paper, it was really thin, so there has to be a way to do it, but not the way I just did it. Anyway, I like to experiment and try things out. If it had worked, I would have gone yippee and everybody would have thought I was clever. Not sure what's going on here. Oops. Put a little bit of a tear in it there. Didn't go all the way through there. Okay, that's that one and that's that one. So I'll get my my paper press. You're going to love this. So this is what I use to press my paper, and it's 2 lids that are slightly different size. So I put the paper in the bigger one and put the small one on top. And then this big book on top of that. It weighs about 5 kilos, that book. And then I leave it overnight. And it works. Turns out flat. So in the morning, I'll show you how flat it is. Okay, let's get the weight off. And here's the paper. It's a lovely and flat. Can you see the gold in there? I don't know whether you can. That's beautiful. I love this one, even though it hasn't really turned out the way it was meant to. I just love the impressions that the flowers made. So that's the side that they were actually stuck in, and that's left like an embossing pattern on there. There's gold flecks, and there's a bit of green has come out of the flowers, as well as a little bit of slight touch of purple. So that's super pretty. The round one, it's just got a bit of gold in it. This is the one with the coffee granules on it. So that's, yeah, it's okay. This is a nice thick plain piece. They turned out nice and white, so I'm happy about that. This is one that had flower petals all through it, and I pulled them all out. So that's nice and flat. It's still got some little bits of the purple in there, and it's got gold. This one had the agapanthus flowers in it, and I pulled them all out, so that's got that nice impression. Same as this one, had the little like daisy-like flower petals in it. So it's turned out nice as well. That's another good one. I haven't pulled the flowers out of that. They've sort of got like a skin of paper over the top of them, so I thought I'd leave them there. See what happens. That's another nice one. It's nice and thick. Another round one. 2 round ones. So they're nice and thick. And the other ones that I made, which you didn't see me make, I'll just get them. These are all really thick and chunky. These are the ones that I made when I didn't, like these ones were drying. So I didn't know that the flowers weren't going to stick in there. But for some reason, on these ones where I was just going to town and, you know, like putting heaps of flowers and things in it, they've all seemed to have stuck in there a bit better. Having said that, that one's coming out. It's just a bit of dried rose petal. But they all look really, really nice, I thought. This one's like cardboard. So most of them have kept the flowers in. So the ones I was being careful with didn't. I love these ones. These two. There's heaps of stuff in there. I mean, you wouldn't be able to write on them, and they're quite lumpy on the back, but I think they're pretty. And that's the last one. Lots of rose petals. It's got a few agapanthus bits and pieces in there. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that, and it's given you some insight into how handmade paper is made. Recycled paper, I should say. I'm going to try and work out how to get the flowers to stay in there on a thinner piece of paper, and I'll show you how to make some different colours in another video. So that'll be it for today. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave me a comment, or if you've got any questions, put them down below and I'll answer them for you. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I'll see you in my next video. So cheers for now. Hooroo.